The Silent Awakening. The communication chamber aboard the Galactic Alliance flagship Zenith Crown fell silent as the transmission ended. Admiral Kresh, his blue-scaled face reflecting the dim light of the holographic displays, stared at the empty space where the message had appeared moments before. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep concern among his people, the Zephyrians. "Play it again," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades of military service. The ship's AI complied, and once more the crackling, distorted voice filled the chamber. The words were in an ancient dialect that the translation systems barely recognized, but the meaning was clear enough to send chills through every being present. "This is Terra's resolve, still operational. Sector 77 Alpha. If anyone receives this, Earth remembers." The transmission cut to static, leaving only the gentle hum of the ship's engines and the rapid breathing of the assembled officers. Communications Officer Thylon, her silver skin shimmering with anxiety, turned to face the Admiral. "Sir, the signal originated from the Crimson Nebula, deep in the contested zones. Long-range sensors show no activity in that region for over 2 centuries." Admiral Kresh nodded slowly. The Crimson Nebula was a graveyard of ships from the last Great War, when 3 different civilizations had fought for control of the valuable mining rights in the surrounding systems. It was also, according to the old records, where humanity had made their final stand before vanishing from the galaxy entirely. "Humans," whispered General Vortax, his insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. "But that's impossible. The Terran species went extinct during the Void Wars. Every xenorchaeologist in the Alliance has confirmed it. Apparently not every human got the message." Admiral Kresh replied grimly. "Thylon, dispatch a reconnaissance squadron to investigate. I want to know what's out there." 3 hours later, the reconnaissance ships reached the coordinates. What they found defied explanation and sent shockwaves through the command structure of 3 different alien civilizations. Floating silently among the debris of ancient battles was a ship unlike anything in the current galaxy's databases. The vessel was massive, easily 3 kilometers in length, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that the Alliance's most advanced translation systems couldn't decipher. Most unsettling of all, the ship showed no signs of power, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic emissions. It drifted through space like a ghost, silent and apparently dead. Commander Zilk, leading the reconnaissance squadron, opened a channel back to the flagship. "Admiral, you need to see this. The ship, it's definitely of human construction, but the design is unlike anything in our records. It's as if they continued developing their technology in isolation for centuries." "Any signs of life?" Admiral Kresh asked. "None, sir, but there's something else. The ship is positioned exactly at the gravitational center of the debris field. Either it's the most incredible coincidence in galactic history, or someone placed it there deliberately." Before Admiral Kresh could respond, alerts began blaring throughout the command deck. Sensor Officer Nulox, his tentacles dancing frantically over his control panel, called out in alarm. "Sir, multiple fleets approaching the nebula from different vectors. I'm reading Crimson Syndicate warships, Void Runner pirates, and, Admiral, there's a hegemony battle group moving in as well." The Admiral's expression darkened. The hegemony had been the Alliance's primary rival for the past 50 years, and their sudden interest in the mysterious human ship could only mean trouble. Worse, the Crimson Syndicate and Void Runners were notorious scavengers who would strip any valuable technology they could find. "Set course for the Crimson Nebula. Maximum speed," Admiral Kresh ordered, "and send word to Alliance Command. We need reinforcements, and we need them now." As the Zenith Crown and its escort fleet raced toward the nebula, the various factions converged on the ancient human ship. The Crimson Syndicate arrived first, their sleek red vessels immediately beginning detailed scans of the mysterious Dreadnought. The Void Runners followed closely, their patchwork ships bristling with salvage equipment. But it was the arrival of the Hegemony battle group that changed everything. General Threx, commanding the Hegemony forces, was known throughout the galaxy for his ruthless efficiency and his belief that any advanced technology should belong to the strongest military force. He had no intention of allowing a potentially game-changing piece of human tech to fall into Alliance hands. "All ships, prepare to board the derelict vessel," he commanded. "Any resistance from Alliance or pirate forces is to be met with immediate and overwhelming firepower." The first Hegemony boarding shuttles had barely launched when something impossible happened. The dead human ship suddenly blazed to life. Light flooded from every port and window. Engines that had been cold for centuries roared back to existence. Most shocking of all, weapon systems that shouldn't have been possible with known technology began powering up, casting an ominous red glow across the entire debris field. Then came the transmission that would echo through galactic history. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Force vessel Terra's Resolve. All ships are ordered to maintain minimum safe distance. We are operating under Wartime Protocol 7. Any vessel that approaches within weapons range will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." The voice was crisp, professional, and absolutely human. It was also impossible, according to everything the galaxy thought it knew about the extinct Terran species. Admiral Kresh, still 20 minutes out from the nebula, leaned forward in his command chair. "Open a channel. Let me speak to this Captain Rodriguez." "Channel open, sir." "Captain Rodriguez, this is Admiral Kresh of the Galactic Alliance. We received your distress signal and came to investigate. We were under the impression that humanity was extinct." There was a long pause before the human captain responded. When she did, her voice carried a mixture of sadness and grim determination. "Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated, Admiral. We've been sleeping, waiting, watching. But now we're awake, and we remember why we stayed behind when the rest of our people fled." "Stayed behind for what purpose?" "To finish what we started. The Void Reapers didn't disappear, Admiral. They've been gathering strength in the dark spaces between galaxies, and now they're coming back." Before Admiral Kresh could ask what she meant by Void Reapers, every sensor array in the system screamed simultaneous warnings. Space itself seemed to tear open at the edge of the system, and through the dimensional rift came ships that hurt to look at directly. They moved wrong, existed wrong, as if reality had to constantly adjust itself around their presence. The Void Reapers had returned. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of Terra's Resolve, her weathered face illuminated by the glow of displays that showed approaching nightmare. Around her, the crew that had slept in cryogenic suspension for over 300 years moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment, prepared for it, dreamed of it during their long sleep. "All stations report ready, Captain," called out Commander Marcus Chen from the tactical station. The Asian man's hair was streaked with premature gray, a side effect of the extended cryogenic suspension, but his mind was sharp as ever. "How many of them?" Rodriguez asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. Dr. Sarah Okafor, the ship's chief science officer, looked up from her readings with barely concealed horror. "I'm counting at least 200 vessels, Captain. And they're not just ships. Some of them are the size of small moons." Rodriguez nodded grimly. They had always known this day would come. When the rest of humanity had fled to distant galaxies or hidden colonies, the crew of Terra's Resolve had volunteered to stay behind as the final guardian. They had made peace with the fact that they would likely die in the coming battle. What mattered was buying time for the other species to realize the threat and prepare their defenses. "Captain," Communications Officer Lisa Reeves called out, "we're receiving multiple hails from the alien fleets. They want to know what those things are." "Put me on general broadcast," Rodriguez ordered. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez. The entities entering this system are called Void Reapers. They are not from our galaxy, and they exist for one purpose: to consume all sentient life they encounter. I strongly advise you to coordinate your defensive efforts rather than continuing to fight among yourselves." General Threx's voice crackled across the comm channel, filled with disbelief and anger. "Preposterous. You expect us to believe that these, whatever they are, pose a threat to modern military technology? Our shields and weapons have advanced considerably since your primitive era." As if summoned by his words, one of the smaller Void Reaper ships glided toward the hegemony battle group. The alien vessel made no aggressive moves, but as it approached, the hegemony's most advanced frigate simply ceased. It didn't explode or break apart. It stopped existing, as if reality had edited it out of the universe. The communications channels fell silent except for the sound of panicked breathing from multiple species. "The Void Reapers don't destroy matter," Dr. Okafor explained over the open channel, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "They unweave the quantum bonds that hold atoms together. They consume the fundamental forces that create reality itself. Conventional weapons cannot harm them because they exist partially outside our dimensional framework. Then how do we fight them?" Admiral Kresh's voice cut through the static, professional, and controlled despite the impossible situation unfolding before them. Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. "We don't fight them conventionally, Admiral. We fight them the human way. We innovate, we adapt, and we refuse to surrender even when victory seems impossible. When Earth's children return to war." The bridge of Terra's resolve hummed with activity as the crew prepared for what might be humanity's final battle. Captain Rodriguez moved between stations, checking readouts and offering quiet words of encouragement to her people. They had trained for this scenario countless times during their long vigil, but no amount of preparation could fully ready someone for facing the dissolution of reality itself. "Chen, what's our weapons status?" she asked her tactical officer. Commander Chen's fingers danced across his holographic interface. "Quantum disruptors are at full charge, Captain. The probability manipulator is online, though we've only got enough exotic matter for maybe 3 shots. The reality anchor is holding us stable in normal space-time. And the contingency protocol." Chen's expression grew somber. "Standing by, Captain. All crew have been briefed and given their choices." Rodriguez nodded. The contingency protocol was their final option, one that would save the galaxy but destroy Terra's resolve and everyone aboard her. Every member of the crew had volunteered to stay when they could have fled with the rest of humanity. They had made their peace with this outcome long ago. "Captain," Dr. Okafor called from the science station. "I'm detecting some kind of communication pattern from the Void Reapers. It's not language as we understand it, but there's definitely an organized information exchange happening between their vessels. Can you interfere with it?" "Maybe. If I can modulate our quantum field to create interference in their communication matrix. Yes, I think I can disrupt their coordination temporarily." "Do it. Every advantage we can gain matters now." As Dr. Okafor worked at her station, Admiral Kresh's voice came over the communication channel. "Captain Rodriguez, we're prepared to coordinate our defensive efforts with your vessel. What do you need from us?" Rodriguez considered the question carefully. The alien fleets represented thousands of ships and millions of beings, but conventional tactics would be useless against the Void Reapers. What they needed was something the aliens had never considered before: the willingness to sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. "Admiral, I need you to think like a human for the next few minutes. Your species values efficiency, order, and preservation of resources. Ours values stubborn refusal to accept defeat, even when logic says we should. Can you do that?" There was a pause before Kresh responded. "We will try, Captain. What do you have in mind?" "The Void Reapers exist partially outside our reality, which makes them nearly invulnerable to conventional attack. But that same nature makes them dependent on quantum anchors to maintain their presence in our dimension. Dr. Okafor has identified 17 primary anchor points among their fleet. And you want us to target those points?" "No, Admiral. I want you to ignore them completely." The alien commanders struggled to understand Rodriguez's strategy, But the human captain was already moving to the next phase of her plan. She had studied the Void Reapers for centuries, analyzed every scrap of data from their previous incursion, and reached a conclusion that only human thinking could have achieved. The anchor points are too well defended, she explained as the combined fleets began moving into position. But the Void Reapers have a weakness they don't even know about. They've never encountered a species crazy enough to deliberately destabilize local spacetime while positioned at the center of their own fleet. Commander Chen looked up from his station, understanding dawning in his eyes. Captain, you're talking about overloading our reality anchor and creating a quantum cascade. That would create a localized dimensional collapse, yes. Everything within a radius of approximately 50,000 kilometers would be pulled into a temporary micro-dimension, including us. The question is whether we can survive long enough in that pocket dimension to complete the mission. Dr. Okafor ran the calculations quickly. We'd have maybe 90 seconds before the dimensional barriers collapsed entirely. And there's no guarantee we'd be able to return to normal spacetime. Acceptable parameters, Rodriguez said calmly. Phylan, can your people coordinate the other fleets to provide cover while we implement this plan? The silver-skinned communications officer aboard the Zenith Crown worked frantically to relay tactical information between the diverse alien fleets. Species that had been enemies minutes before now found themselves working together, their survival dependent on trusting the tactical genius of an extinct human captain. The Crimson Syndicate's fast attack ships darted between the larger Void Reaper vessels, using their superior speed to draw fire away from the Dreadnought. The Void Runner pirates, despite their reputation for cowardice, threw their ships into suicidal attacks that bought precious seconds. Even General Threx's hegemony forces, swallowing their pride, provided covering fire for the human ship. Quantum cascade initiating, Dr. Okafor announced. Reality anchor overload in 60 seconds. The space around Terra's resolve began to shimmer and bend as the ship's exotic technology warped the fundamental structure of local spacetime. The Void Reapers, sensing the danger, turned their full attention to the human Dreadnought. Weapons that could unmake matter itself focused on the ship that dared to challenge their existence. Terra's resolve shuddered under the assault, her shields failing section by section. But the ship had been built by humans, designed to keep fighting even when logic said it should have been destroyed hours ago. Emergency power rerouted around damaged systems, backup generators came online, and the crew continued their work even as reality itself began to unravel around them. 30 seconds to cascade, Dr. Okafor called out, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Captain Rodriguez opened a final channel to the combined alien fleets. This is Rodriguez. We're about to disappear for a while. When we do, the Void Reapers will be confused and disorganized. You'll have maybe 5 minutes to retreat to minimum safe distance before we return. If we return. Admiral Kresh's voice came back immediately. Captain, there has to be another way. Your species has already sacrificed too much. Rodriguez smiled, thinking of the billions of humans who had fled to distant stars, carrying their dreams and hopes with them. Admiral, we didn't sacrifice anything. We invested everything. And sometimes the best investment you can make is in someone else's future. 10 seconds to cascade. The crew of Terra's Resolve gripped their stations as reality began to collapse around them. The ship, along with its human crew and 17 Void Reaper vessels, vanished from normal spacetime in a brilliant flash of impossible light. For 90 seconds, there was silence in the Crimson Nebula. The remaining Void Reaper ships hung motionless in space, their coordination disrupted, their command structure severed. The alien fleets used those precious moments to regroup and retreat to safe distance. Then, like a star being born, the micro-dimension collapsed and expelled its contents back into normal space. Terra's Resolve reappeared, her hull scorched, and her systems failing, but intact. Of the 17 Void Reaper ships that had been pulled into the cascade, nothing remained but rapidly dispersing energy. The remaining Void Reaper fleet, leaderless and disorganized, began a chaotic retreat back to the dimensional rift they had emerged from. Without their command vessels and quantum anchors, they could not maintain their presence in normal spacetime. "This is Captain Rodriguez," came the weak but victorious transmission. "Mission accomplished. The immediate threat has been neutralized." Admiral Kresh watched as the human Dreadnought slowly powered down its exotic systems, its crew no doubt exhausted from their impossible victory. "Captain, your ship appears to be heavily damaged. We can provide assistance." "Appreciated, Admiral. But first, we need to talk. The Void Reapers will return eventually, probably in greater numbers. The galaxy needs to be prepared." "Agreed. What do you propose?" Rodriguez's voice carried new hope, the first she had allowed herself to feel in centuries. "I propose we do what humans have always done best, Admiral. We learn from each other, we adapt, and we prepare for the next impossible challenge. But this time, we don't face it alone." In the months that followed, the galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. The existence of humanity, thought extinct for centuries, sparked new alliances and cooperation between species that had been enemies for generations. Human technology, evolved in isolation and driven by the desperate need to fight impossible odds, merged with alien science to create defenses that could protect entire star systems. Dr. Okafor worked alongside Zephyrian quantum physicists to develop early warning systems that could detect dimensional rifts before they fully opened. Commander Chen trained alien tactical officers in human military doctrine, teaching them the value of stubborn persistence and creative problem-solving. Even General Thrax, humbled by the human display of sacrifice and tactical brilliance, became an advocate for the new interspecies alliance. Captain Elena Rodriguez, the last guardian of a species thought lost, became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Alliance in over 3 centuries. Her ship, Terra's Resolve, was repaired and upgraded with the best technology the combined species could offer, serving as both a symbol of human resilience and a beacon of hope for the future. But perhaps most importantly, humanity began to return. Ships emerged from distant hiding places, drawn by signals that their guardians had succeeded. Colonies that had been silent for generations sent tentative messages, asking if it was safe to come home. The galaxy had learned something important from its encounter with both the Void Reapers and their human defenders. Sometimes survival required more than just superior technology or overwhelming force. Sometimes it required the willingness to sacrifice everything for others, the creativity to find solutions where none seemed possible, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat even when victory seemed impossible. These were uniquely human traits, but they could be learned. And in learning them, the galaxy became stronger, more united, and better prepared for whatever challenges the universe might throw at them next. As Captain Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Terra's Resolve, watching human and alien ships working together in the void, she allowed herself to smile. They had kept their promise. Earth remembered. And now the galaxy would remember too.